I was standing at my kitchen island, carefully curling a silver ribbon around a gift box, when my phone vibrated against the granite countertop. The screen lit up with a message in the family group chat from my son David. It read, "Stay home. We're sick of your family." My hands stopped moving. The kitchen, smelling faintly of the vanilla pound cake I had just pulled from the oven, suddenly felt entirely too quiet. I stared at the bright screen, assuming it was a mistake or a poorly phrased joke. David was 35, an adult who generally avoided conflict, mostly because he preferred to let his wife Sarah handle the social steering. A few seconds later, Sarah's icon popped up beneath his message. She reacted with a simple thumbs-up emoji. There was no follow-up text, no apology, no oops, wrong chat. They had just casually uninvited me from an event I had spent the last 3 weeks organizing. I was 62, a widow, for 5 years, and I had fallen into the quiet, invisible trap of being the family wallet. Tomorrow was Sarah's 33rd birthday. I had booked a private dining room at a beautiful waterfront restaurant in town. I had covered the deposit. I had pre-ordered the wine she liked and paid for the custom floral arrangements she demanded because the restaurant's standard centerpieces were too tacky for her taste. I didn't cry. I didn't drop the gift box or dramatically gasp. Instead, a very cold, very clear stillness settled over me. For years, I had ignored Sarah's subtle eye rolls and David's passive entitlement because I wanted to keep the peace. I wanted a family around my dinner table. But looking at that thumbs up, I realized they didn't want a mother. They wanted a sponsor. I picked up my phone, bypassed the group chat entirely, and opened the web browser. It was time to show them exactly what staying home looked like. The restaurant's website loaded slowly on my tablet. I navigated to my reservation portal, staring at the details of the extravagant birthday dinner. 15 guests, a customized menu, a massive tab that was entirely linked to my credit card. My finger hovered over the screen. For a brief second, the old conditioned part of my brain whispered that canceling would cause a scene. It whispered that a good mother absorbs the blow and smiles through the dinner just to keep her son happy. But that thought vanished as quickly as it came. I tapped Cancel Reservation. A warning popped up advising that my deposit would be forfeited. I tapped Confirm without a single regret. The screen refreshed, leaving a blank page. Next, I opened the bakery's website. The 3-tiered velvet cake was scheduled for pickup tomorrow morning. I found the order number, clicked Cancel Order, and removed my saved payment information. The bakery charged a small cancellation fee, which felt entirely worth the price of my newfound peace. I set the tablet down and looked around my living room. I noticed the expensive rug David had asked me to help pay for last Christmas. I saw the framed photos of a family vacation to Florida, a trip I had entirely funded. They had treated my financial support like oxygen, completely invisible until it was gone. I walked over to the gift box, sitting on the counter. Inside was a pair of designer earrings Sarah had hinted at for months. I calmly peeled the tape off, opened the box, and slipped the earrings into my own jewelry drawer. My phone remained silent. They were likely assuming I would just swallow the insult and show up to pay the bill tomorrow night as usual. I opened my banking app. My pulse steady, feeling more awake than I had in a decade. I needed to look at the joint account before the evening was over. Sitting at my dining table, I stared at the glowing numbers on my banking app. 3 years ago, David convinced me to open a joint family emergency checking account. He claimed it would be easier for me to help out with sudden expenses if the money was already accessible. Over the years, that account morphed into their personal slush fund. I scrolled through the recent transaction history. Groceries from an upscale market, a charge for a dog groomer, a hefty bill from a boutique clothing store. None of these were emergencies. They were lifestyle choices funded by a grieving widow who just wanted to feel needed. Every single dollar in that account had been transferred from my personal savings. David had never deposited a dime. I tapped the transfer button. I typed in the exact total of the remaining balance, selected my private checking account as the destination, and authorized the movement. The joint account balance dropped to 0 instantly. Just as I set my phone down, it rang. It was my daughter, Clara. She lived 3 hours away and always saw right through David's nonsense. I answered, putting her on speaker. "Hey, Mom, did you see the group chat?" Clara asked, her voice tight with suppressed anger. "Tell me you aren't actually going to pay for her dinner tomorrow." "I'm not," I replied, sipping a glass of water. "I canceled the restaurant. I canceled the cake. I just emptied the joint account." Clara let out a loud, genuine laugh. "Good. It's about time, Mom. You don't owe them a thing." We chatted for a few more minutes about her upcoming work trip, completely ignoring the drama brewing in my own city. I felt incredibly light. When we hung up, I noticed the time on the microwave clock. It was 8:00 p.m. Right on schedule, the restaurant's automated cancellation emails were dispatched to all the secondary contacts on the reservation. The silence in my house was about to break. At exactly 8:02 p.m., the family group chat woke up. The notifications fired off in rapid succession, vibrating violently against the wood of my dining table. I didn't rush to read them. I finished wiping down the kitchen counters, turned off the overhead lights, and finally picked up the device. David was the first to panic. "Mom, what happened to the reservation? I just got an email saying it's canceled." A minute later, Sarah chimed in, her carefully constructed polite facade completely gone. "Did your credit card bounce? You need to call them right now and fix this. The invites are already out." I stood in the dim light of my hallway and read the messages. They didn't ask if I was hurt by their earlier text. They didn't apologize for telling me my family made them sick. Their only concern was the logistics of their free party. I didn't type a response. I didn't send an angry paragraph explaining my feelings. They knew exactly what they did, and I refused to give them the satisfaction of an emotional reaction. 10 minutes passed. The texts turned from confused to frantic. David tried calling me twice. I let both calls ring through to voicemail. Sarah sent a direct message. "This isn't funny, Josephine. Call the restaurant." I opened the settings on my phone, navigated to the family group chat, and tapped "Leave conversation." Then I put my phone on silent, plugged it into the charger on my nightstand, and climbed into bed. I pulled the heavy duvet over my shoulders, expecting to feel a wave of guilt or anxiety keep me awake. Instead, the steady rhythm of the rain against my bedroom window lulled me into the deepest, most restful sleep I had experienced in years. I knew David wouldn't let this go. He would be at my front door by morning. The doorbell rang at 8:30 a.m., sharp and demanding. I was already dressed, sitting on my porch with a hot cup of black coffee. I watched David march up the front steps, his face flushed, clutching his phone. "Mom, what is going on?" he demanded, before I even opened the screen door. "You ignored us all night. The restaurant said they gave the room away to another party." Sarah is furious. I took a slow sip of my coffee, looking at my son. He looked exactly like his father, but he had none of his backbone. "Good morning, David," I greeted calmly. "Good morning, me. Why did you cancel the party?" he asked, stepping closer to the door. "You told me to stay home," I answered, keeping my voice entirely neutral. "You said you were sick of this family. I simply respected your wishes. I stayed home, and I kept my money here with me." David blinked, realizing the text was not a forgotten oversight. We were just venting. Sarah was stressed about the guest list. "You're completely overreacting. You need to pay for a new venue right now." I didn't argue. I didn't defend my reaction. I just looked at the key ring dangling from his fingers. "I'm not paying for anything," I stated. "And since you and your wife are sick of this family, I'll need my spare house key back." His mouth dropped open. What mom be reasonable? The key, David. I held out my hand, palm up. He stared at me for a long moment, waiting for me to crack, waiting for the mother who always caved to reappear. When my expression didn't change, he angrily fumbled with the metal ring, slid the brass key off, and dropped it into my palm. He turned around and stomped back to his car. I dropped the key into my pocket. I knew Sarah wouldn't accept this defeat easily. She would try her hand next. It didn't take long. Just past noon, a silver sedan pulled sharply into my driveway. Sarah stepped out wearing an oversized sweater and an expression of profound victimhood. She marched up the walkway, clearly expecting to bulldoze her way through my front door. I stepped outside and locked the door behind me, meeting her on the porch. Josephine, she started, crossing her arms tightly. You have completely ruined my birthday. David is a mess, and I am incredibly hurt by your behavior. Hello, Sarah, I replied, leaning against the wooden railing. Do you know how embarrassing this is? She snapped, dropping the polite tone. I have 15 people expecting a dinner tonight. You made a commitment to pay for it. If you don't want to come, fine, but you need to wire me the money so we can book somewhere else. I looked at her, truly seeing her for the first time. The sheer audacity was almost impressive. I made a reservation for a family dinner, I corrected her. You made it very clear in a text message that I am not family to you. Therefore, I have no financial obligations to you. We were just tired of you always hovering, she blurted out, her frustration overriding her filter. You always want to be involved in everything we do. Well, I smiled softly. You never have to worry about me hovering again. You have your space and I have my money. I suggest you go home and figure out how to feed your 15 guests on your own budget. She opened her mouth to argue, her face turning a deep shade of red. But I simply turned around, unlocked my door, stepped inside and closed it firmly in her face. Through the window, I watched her stand on the porch, in disbelief, for a full minute before marching back to her car. Just as she drove away, another car pulled in. It was Clara, arriving exactly when she said she would. Clara walked in carrying an overnight bag and 2 large coffees. She took one look at my face and grinned. I passed Sarah at the stop sign. She looked like she just chewed on a lemon. She asked me to wire her the money for a new venue. I mentioned taking the coffee from Clara's hands. Clara rolled her eyes, kicking off her shoes. Of course she did. Grab your coat, Mom. I booked us a spa day a few towns over. We aren't sitting in this house waiting for them to throw a tantrum. We spent the entire weekend away from my quiet neighborhood. We got massages, ate at a small Italian place, and browsed antique shops. It was the first weekend in almost 3 years where I wasn't checking my phone to see if David needed me to run an errand or if Sarah needed me to watch their dog so they could go to a brunch. I felt a knot in my shoulders, dissolve, a knot I hadn't even realized I was carrying. Later that evening, while sitting on the hotel balcony, Clara scrolled through her social media. Oh, this is rich, she laughed. Sarah posted a photo of them eating pizza in their living room. The caption says, "Making the best of a birthday, ruined by toxic family members." I shook my head, feeling nothing but a mild amusement. Let her post whatever she wants. The people who know the truth know the truth. Exactly, Clara agreed. By the way, doesn't David's truck insurance draft out of your account on the 1st of the month? I paused my coffee cup halfway to my mouth. Clara was right. 2 years ago, David hit a rough patch and I had quietly set his auto insurance to pull from my checking account. I had completely forgotten about it. The 1st of the month was Monday. It does, I noted, pulling my phone out of my purse. Not anymore. Sitting in the comfortable hotel chair, I logged into the insurance portal. It took less than 3 minutes to remove my payment information and cancel the automatic draft. David's policy would lapse in 48 hours if he didn't log in and pay it himself. While I had the banking app open, I took a hard look at my recurring expenses. For years, I had allowed small financial leaks to drain my accounts in the name of being a helpful mother. I found the family cell phone plan. I was paying the monthly bill for my phone, David's phone, and Sarah's phone. I called the provider's customer service line. "Hi, I need to remove 2 lines from my account," I instructed the representative. I gave them David and Sarah's numbers. The representative informed me that the lines would be deactivated at midnight unless the users assumed financial responsibility. I agreed without hesitation. Clara watched me from across the room, smiling proudly. "You're really cleaning house, aren't you?" "I'm just returning things to where they belong," I answered, placing the phone on the table. "They wanted independence from this family. I am giving it to them completely." I realized then that my money had never bought me their love or their respect. It had only bought their tolerance. The minute I stopped being useful, I became a nuisance. I felt a brief pang of sadness for the son I thought I had raised, but it was quickly overshadowed by a profound sense of relief. I was no longer an employee in my own family. We drove back to my house on Sunday afternoon. The house was quiet, secure, and entirely mine. The real test I knew would come on Monday morning when the financial reality finally caught up to David's arrogance. Monday morning arrived with a frantic phone call. I was watering the ferns on my back porch when my phone rang. The caller ID showed David's office number. I knew immediately what had happened. His cell phone was dead. I let it ring 3 times before sliding the green button. "Mom, did you shut off my phone?" He shouted, his voice echoing slightly in what sounded like an office stairwell. "And I just got an email from the insurance company saying my auto pay failed. What are you doing?" "I am adjusting my budget." "David," I answered carefully, plucking a dead leaf off a fern. "I no longer pay for services for people who despise my family." "You can't do this without warning." He panicked. "Sarah is furious. Her phone is completely dead. We need those phones for work. And I don't have the cash for the insurance premium. Right now, the truck is going to be uninsured." "That sounds like a serious problem," I observed calmly. "You and Sarah should sit down and figure out how to manage your expenses. You are 35 years old." "Mom, please." His tone shifted from angry to desperate. The reality of the situation was finally sinking in. The bank of Mom was officially closed. "We're sorry about the text. It was a mistake. Just turn the phones back on, please. I can't drive an uninsured truck. An apology to regain access to my wallet isn't an apology, David. It's a negotiation." I walked back inside and locked the sliding glass door. "You told me to stay home. I am staying home. I suggest you do the same until you can afford your own car insurance." I didn't wait for his response. I ended the call. Later that day, Clara texted me a screenshot. Sarah had tried to post another sob story on social media about being abandoned, but Clara had simply commented underneath, "You literally texted her to stay home because you were sick of her, but you expected her to keep paying your bills. Grow up." Sarah deleted the post 5 minutes later. 6 months have passed since the weekend of Sarah's ruined birthday. The transition wasn't completely seamless, but it was deeply necessary. David tried a few more times to re-establish the old dynamic, sending half-hearted text messages asking for small loans to cover utility bills. I politely declined every single one. Without my constant financial padding, they had to downsize their apartment and actually live within their means. I heard through a mutual acquaintance that Sarah was furious about having to clip coupons. My house is quieter now, but it is a comfortable, intentional quiet. I don't jump every time my phone rings expecting a crisis or a demand for money. I used the money I saved from the canceled birthday dinner and the drained joint account to hire a landscaper for my front yard and book a 2-week cruise with Clara for the spring. Clara visits often. We drink coffee on the porch, we cook dinner without anyone criticizing the menu, and we laugh without walking on eggshells. I no longer feel the heavy, exhausting burden of trying to buy my place at the family table. Setting a hard boundary with your own child goes against every instinct a mother has. We are taught to endure, to give, until we are entirely empty. But I learned the hard way that you cannot love someone into respecting you. When people treat you like an ATM shutting off the cash flow is the only way to find out what is actually left of the relationship. In my case, there was nothing left. I am a 62-year-old widow, and for the first time in a very long time, I am not a wallet, a maid, or a convenient punching bag. I am simply Josephine. And in my own home, that is more than enough. Looking back on this whole experience, the hardest pill to swallow wasn't the disrespect. In fact, it was realizing that I had been quietly funding my own mistreatment. As parents, especially as mothers, we are so deeply wired to give, to fix, and to smooth things over. We convince ourselves that if we just help out one more time or pay one more bill, they'll finally appreciate us. But the reality I had to accept is that you cannot buy genuine respect. If someone only values you for what you can provide, giving them more will never make them love you. It will only make them entitled. Taking my money back and walking away wasn't an act of revenge. It was simply an act of self-preservation. I had to stop auditioning for a role in my son's life and realize that my worth isn't tied to my wallet. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for entitled people is to step back, close your checkbook, and let them finally meet the real world. I didn't lose my family. I just bought back my peace. If this story resonated with you today, or if it gave you that little extra push to set a boundary of your own, please hit that subscribe button and give this video a like. We share real stories about reclaiming your life, your boundaries, and your peace every single week. Remember, your worth is not measured by what you can pay for. Stay strong, protect your peace, and I'll see you in the next video.